If you missed it, we've shipped our Honda-swapped Ferrari from California to Australia for the 2023 World Time Attack Challenge. For the uninitiated, the World Time Attack Challenge takes place at Sydney Motorsport Park in Sydney, Australia, and it stands as one of the premier time attack events in the world. It brings competitors on a global scale, all to compete for the single fastest lap time around one of Australia's most competitive circuits. It is, by most measures, the World Series of racing against the clock. So if you're wondering what we're doing here with a fresh build that's completely untested, well, that's a pretty fair question. But a few months back, we received an invitation from our friends at Haltech, and so we put the hammer down and finished the car. We got a few test laps in, loaded it into a container, and shipped it to the other side of the world. It took some effort upon arrival to make sure the car was ready for competition, but a couple of days spent at Haltech proved that it was, or at least so we thought. On our first lap of the first day of competition, we suffered an extreme part failure. Our Quaife QK-E8J sequential transmission let go. I was able to limp the car around the circuit back to the pit, but it was abundantly clear the car was dead in the water. It looked like our competition debut was over as soon as it began. But the folks at JDM Yard happened to have an identical Quaife transmission, and after putting it on my credit card, we spent the night pulling the entire driveline from the Ferrari and replacing it, trackside. It looked like things were going to work out until the track told us we had 1 hour left, we needed to leave at midnight. So we put the pedal down and gave it our all, only to find that one 10-cent fitting could keep the car from going back together. My greatest fear was having spent $11,000 I don't have on a transmission, all for it to be for nothing. But we weren't going to let adversity stop us. Even without a solution for this clutch slave line, we figured we should get to the track as soon as the gates open and give it our all. And to be honest, it didn't take long before our prayers were answered. After reading of our situation on Instagram, it was Chad, the same gentleman who gave us the gantry to pull the engine, who sent me a phone number and said to call it. So I did, and it was Shane at Motorsport Connections who answered. I explained the situation, and he assured me this shouldn't be an issue. He's got the tools and the parts on hand to solve this, and he'd be at the track in an hour. For the first time since this ordeal began, it felt like the stars were beginning to align. We had 3 hours left before the car needed to be on track for the first session, and while it didn't look likely that we'd make that, everything was coming together, and with a bit of luck, we might make it for the second 2 sessions of the day. With a photo of our late friend Corey, we reminded ourselves that no matter the outcome, dude, it's fine. So we pressed forth and gave it everything we've got.
Yeah, I'm down here with the guys of this beautiful Ferrari. Now, these guys had gearbox problems yesterday, and they've pretty much all worked all through the night. They said they got kicked out of here about just after midnight. They were back here at 4 a.m. You can see down on the ground there, they've been handing out the cases of Red Bull because these guys have been working so hard to get this car back out on track. They're just about ready to fire up. They think they've got it all back together. So really excited to see this beautiful Ferrari on track later today.
How about that, eh? Kicked out at midnight and back at 4. I did stop past that pit on the way out last night, and yeah, there was no motor in it. The motor's out.
That's incredible. Look at that.
Yeah.
So to change the box on that, the engine had to come out.
That's right, yeah.
So that's an incredible job from that team down there. Thanks for that, Luffy. And look, if that car can run again today, whether it runs at on idle or if it runs at all, that's an amazing effort. Dude, it's fine.
Yeah.
Sure looks it, with pipes hanging out, bits not back on it, but it'll get there.
Piece by piece before our eyes, the car was coming back together. And like clockwork, Shane arrived when promised to fix the last remaining issue. With him, he brought all of the tools needed to fix our clutch line in position. Any traditional fix would require pulling the entire driveline back out of the car. But he was going to save us by giving us a motorsport-grade repair to our stripped threads in place. As a hydraulic line for the clutch system, it needs to withstand thousands of psi of pressure. But specialty fittings allow him to cut our line and replace the end of it without needing specialty crimps or hydraulic equipment. And equally impressive to the fix itself was the speed with which Shane was able to execute the fix. It seemed like he was only under the car for a handful of minutes before he uttered the words we were all waiting to hear.
All done?
Without Shane, all of the investment, the time, and the effort we put in to fix the car would have been for nothing. But with his help, I was able to get under the car and get the clutch bled. With that, we were officially back in action. Scott from Haltech came back over to the car and began the process of calibrating our gear position sensor. We cycled through the gears to make sure our dash is reading correctly and to make sure we're not going to have any issues with our flat shift programming. With the baseline out of the way, it's time for that moment we've been working towards. We're going to fire the Ferrari up and make sure it runs. Having the Ferrari roar back to life was one of the most victorious moments of the project so far. We turned through the gears while perched on jack stands and once again confirmed everything appears to be in good working order. With Scott's blessing, it sounds like we're ready to take the next step.
Things are looking pretty good. So Saturday morning, gearbox is in. We've just done the gear calibration. It's got all of the gears now. There's no crunching, no banging. It's got good engine oil pressure. Now all that really needs to happen is the engine needs to warm up, the gearbox will need to warm up so that they can go out and circulate, and then go and get that one perfect lap.
And just like that, the wheels were officially in motion. There were very few parts that needed to be put back on the car in order to have it back in racing form, so it was all hands on deck so we could reach the starting line. Our test sessions on Thursday had us feeling relatively confident about the rest of the car, and with a new gearbox in place and everything sorted, we felt like we might actually have a chance of getting that one lap we came here to achieve. Better yet, there were still a few minutes to spare, and we might actually make it on track for the first round of Saturday's competition. Whatever happens from here on out certainly isn't for a lack of effort. I think we did it. We're going to go out, so it counts for something. Like I said, as long as I can do one flying lap, I'll be content. It's I'm the most strange mix of excited and nervous and scared I'm going to break something again. But all we can do is our best. We're going to go for it. And so I suited up with one final touch for the 244 GTK, bringing along Corey for the trip he would have been on if he could have. We worked so hard to get to Australia and then to fix everything that has gone wrong along the way. And with one of the greatest personal achievements I've ever had looming on the horizon, I wanted Corey to come along for that one important lap. It would be hard for me to suggest that I'm glad that our gearbox failed. But in a roundabout way, it makes that first competitive lap that much more special. We had to earn it, we had to work for it, and we had to dive in head first into the gauntlet that is competitive motorsports to learn the hard way that it will never, ever come easily. But even if the lap we do turn is the slowest in class or the slowest overall, that part doesn't even matter. No matter what, it's a victory. We win, we did it, we came, we saw, and we conquered. And all that's left is to pull this car out of the pit under its own power and turn that single lap. This wasn't the first time I had pulled the Ferrari out onto the track. In fact, far from it, but somehow it felt like the first time all over again. I was as nervous as could be, but somehow more optimistic than ever. It felt like everything had come to this point right here, and after all of the hard work, I knew somehow this was going to work out. In fact, I think in that moment, we all knew. It was like our own version of the Sandlot, where we had conquered the odds, grown closer together, and got our race car out on track. So the only remaining question was just how fast were we going to go?
Here we go. This is good news, ladies and gentlemen. This is good news. Mr. Mike Burrows from StanceWorks, brand new Quafe sequential on board the Ferrari, and he's already pumped to want to try and come back and do it next year. But yeah, he's lit up a circuit. Well, I think everything for him's going to be PBs to start with, because yeah, no luck yesterday. But folks, this is all the way from the other side of the world, the StanceWorks garage. I think he's based, where is he based out of Cali? Yeah,
Based out of Costa Mesa, California.
Yeah, right.
Southern California.
And here it is, the K-swapped Ferrari 308. So yeah, let's get some eyes and ears on this for a lap. Let's just have a tune in on the StanceWorks Ferrari here with a brand new Quafe sequential. Last night he was waiting for parts, so we had a bit of time to talk to the guy, and you couldn't get a more humble, unassuming fellow. You know, like people sort of start to build a profile for themselves, and some people believe in their own hype. But at the end of the day, you know, if you stay humble and show a human element of it, that's why I think where people gravitate to you if you're real. And you wouldn't get a more real guy than Mike Burrows out there, because as he said, he wanted to build something different. This was very, very different.
You know what we call that, Chris? In the States, it's called chill.
Yeah, he's chill. He's so chill. He was actually at the stage last night. He goes, we're getting a new Quafe. He goes, I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. I said, listen, we'll sort it all out later. He goes, I'll just have to go and make some more money. I said, you go and do that, but don't worry about how we're going to pay for that right now. We'll sort it out right now. So again, he's not a guy that's talking about he's got $100 million out there.
Right.
He was worried about how am I going to pay for this transmission. We'll sort it out at the end of the weekend. He might hand it back. You know what I mean? It might not be that he needed to use it. Buy it. He might have just used it to use it for the weekend, and maybe that's all. Let's just see what happens. All right.
It probably goes without saying that the first session was an absolute success, beyond any expectation or even possible hope. The car felt amazing, planted, and was doing exactly what I hoped it would. The most important factor moving forward was that I needed to find my own confidence, both in the machine and on the track itself. But that'll come with both time and experience. We need to get the car back into the pit and give it a thorough once-over to make sure nothing has worn down or loosened up. After all, this is the hardest we've driven it. This is a new frontier for us, but by God, does it feel amazing. But we weren't the only ones buzzing with excitement. It was infectious. Everybody around us was thrilled with what had just happened. And with a few hours before the next session and the car thoroughly checked over, we took the car back over to the Haltech booth and shared the excitement with everyone.
To see him this morning run a couple of laps, it was amazing. The cheer from the back of the pits was wild as soon as he pulled in after doing this, and that's the best feeling. That's what we're here for.
It would be impossible for me to count the sheer number of fans and supporters that came up and shared how excited they were for how successful our first session was, which made the second session that much more exciting. Gone were the fears of whether or not the car would even work. Instead, now it's just time to focus on going faster. The pressure's on. There's a lot of eyeballs watching, but this is exactly what we built this car to do. So let's go out and find our groove. In all, the 244 GTK felt incredible beneath me. I was still working on finding my own comfort limit in the car and finding the limits of traction because this car has a ton of it. And it's abundantly clear that even after just a few laps within a few sessions, this car has some impressive capability that I have to extract from it. There are a few changes it's obvious we're going to have to make. Namely, we've got to get a smaller turbo in this thing to cut down on the turbo lag, and we've got to get some spring rate changes to play better with our aero. But as a whole, this thing just feels so good. I never imagined that a car I built with my own two hands would ever feel like this, especially with so little development so far. That's session 2 in the books, and the only issue throughout the entirety of it was a lean condition on our final lap. Our Haltech Nexus R5 saved the engine once again, all because we didn't top up the fuel before we went out. Everything else on the logs looked good, but it's pretty clear the 244 GTK is thirsty. So we topped it off and then pushed the car outside before the final session of the day for what's known as the pit walk. Some of World Time Attack Challenge's 35,000 attendees are given passes to walk through pit lane as the race cars are parked within it. It offers an incredible up-close and in-person look at some of the legendary machines racing this weekend. Just like our first night at Sydney Motorsport Park, it was a humbling experience to have our car parked amongst them. But it was also cool to escape for just a moment and take a look at one other car in attendance. If you aren't familiar with Jeff's Ferrari, you should be. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, you need to check out the YouTube channel Home Built by Jeff. It's one of the few others I take the time to watch when I can, because Jeff has poured his heart and soul into building one of the coolest vintage Alphas, period. And he was more than kind enough to show me all of the ins and outs, and it was a thrill for even just a moment to be a car guy spectator instead of the center of attention. But it was a fleeting sensation because soon after, it was time for the day's final session, the grand finale, where everyone puts every ounce of effort they can into putting it all on the line. It was clear before we ever arrived in Australia that our Ferrari would never be even remotely competitive within the open class, so I wasn't even concerned with putting down competitive times against professional drivers and some over-the-top builds. What was important to me was to get out there and push myself to my limit. Every session has me feeling more and more comfortable and confident with this machine, and so it's time to leave my mark on Australia, at least for the time being. With any luck, we'll be back. But this one has to count. So let's see what the 244 GTK can do.
Here we go. Look at these classic shapes out there. Here comes Mike Burrows trying to find some space. In front of him here is Adam Pasman, that I know there's a representative time out there. But look at this. It's K-Swap the World. Yeah. It's the K24 S15. It's the K24 308.
Yep.
So come on, Mike, what do you got? There we go, minute 43, 1:55, another PB for Burrows. Keep going, Mike, it's all yours. I want to call him Mick because that's kind of an Australian thing to do, you know. If you're Michael, you're a Mick, you know. This is the modern version of Hollywood. This is, you know, the influencer world. This is the YouTube world.
Right.
And Mike Burrows, just with this amazing car, to see it in the flesh, you can only look at the screen for so long before you want to see things in person, and he is already hooked. The hook is in. Yeah. This guy loves this track, loves the vibe. Yes, it's been hard work to get to here, but I'm sure by the time this man finishes at the end of the day, he's have said, I have lived this event through the end, to the core.
I'd like to really see, I hope he turns it up. They're running a pretty big Garrett G42. And if he turns up the wick, that's going to be some serious power.
Yes, GCG Open class bringing us all the action. Of course, he's running the Haltech on board this thing as well. So it's got a nice few angles in it that makes it work really well. And Mike, just one of the most personable blokes that I've met. Like, he took that much time last night to talk to myself and my sons. He had a bit of time on his hands too because he was waiting for parts. So it's not like he didn't have much to do other than listen to me. Didn't know who the hell we were until the end of it. But just still a guy, humble as ever, look you in the eye, so polite, talk to you about everything. Feel free to go and have a look at it. I even stood on his front splitter accidentally. It was on his front tray.
Accidentally.
I thought I heard it creak and break, but I triple checked it before I left to make sure I'm not the one in the way of Mike Burrows achieving any extra here. I'd hate to be that guy that ruined it for him. And I know it's not me.
And then began my cool-down lap. World Time Attack Challenge 2023 was at a close. At least it was for me. It came with a lot of ups and a lot of downs. It was a huge challenge, and it required more effort than I've put into most things in my life, but I don't think it could have been any more successful in its own way. I wouldn't change the way any of it went, and I certainly have no regrets. The World Time Attack Challenge was without question one of the coolest events I've ever been to, and it's one of the most amazing things I have ever done. It was a trial by fire for our competitive debut on the other side of the world. But what a story it makes, and what an opportunity it was. I was surrounded by some of my best friends and people that I love dearly, and it's thanks to them that I got to do this, and of course, thanks to you guys as well. This never would have happened if all of you watching this didn't follow along. If you had told me a year ago we'd be racing this Ferrari in Australia, I just wouldn't have believed it. But if you tell me I'm going to be back a year from now, well, I'll tell you, I want nothing more. Because this was just a taste of what we built this car for. And I am eager to come back and show the world what this car is truly capable of with another year of development, another year behind the wheel, another year of building confidence. Because as said, it's clear this car has a ton of untapped potential. This car is going to go fast, and it's on me to find that speed, both as a driver and as a builder. We're going to get this car back to the United States and begin the process of making all those revisions and changes that will make it one with the tarmac beneath it. Suffice to say, Stage 1 of the 244 GTK build is complete, and it's time to start Stage 2. So here's to everyone who has watched along this journey so far, and to all the new viewers as well, to all of the sponsors who made this project a reality, and to Haltech and Ian Baker at World Time Attack Challenge for bringing us to Australia and giving us this opportunity. I couldn't have done it without any of you. Now begins the long wait for November for the Ferrari to return home, but rest assured we'll be back on track in no time.